Okay, so last lesson we got through to, we're starting to really get our app moving a little bit, which is starting to look really cool. Yeah, done a few things. So effectively, just to recap, you click the little play button, you can sign in now, enter your text, sign in, pan through things, click on your albums, moving up and down, clicking on your song, hitting your little play buttons there, going back home. So you've got yourself a nice little interactive app. So starting to look pretty cool. So let's close that. Now that you've created your little interactive experience design, you can export this as well. So you can save this as a PDF and turn that into a printed presentation of some static flat lay screens. But now you want to derive some audience feedback as to how they might navigate through this. That's when you move into this final mode, which is your share mode. So you can set up your link, call it audience testing. Now this is going to be a pretty quick episode because there's not much more to it than this. So you can click on, you've got a few different things. So sharing your design with developers, I'm just going to shuffle that in a bit. Sharing your design with developers, so that gives them a lot of information about how it's built. You would share that with a front-end developer as a stakeholder, and that front-end developer would be able to pull your design apart and be able to determine exactly how they can build a website or an app based on your design. Your design review is going to be the main one you use. Presentation would be great for if you're doing a pitch. User testing, have a click on that. And you can also customize. So have a bit of a click around these. I'm just going to show you design review for this one because it's nice and basic. It's got limited functionality and it's nice and easy to use. So I'm going to click on design review here. And link access, probably just go anyone with the link really. You can password protect it if you wanted to, but all you need to do from there is just create a link. So that's going to set up a public link, which you can just go ahead and email to all of your peers and colleagues. And just in the email, you'd say, hey, got a new app. Are you able to test it by locating the Drake album and playing song 3? So give them little missions and ask them to give you that feedback on how they went. Did they get confused? Were they able to successfully do it? Did they click the wrong button several times? And that's what genuine audience surveys look like in interactive experience design. So I'm just going to copy that link and I'm going to open it up in Chrome. Okay, so here we are. So we've got our little app called Audience Testing. So this is what your audience will have seen. Now, if they get this on the mobile, it will open up full screen and it will look like a really cool mobile app. So definitely recommend that you ask them to perhaps use it on the mobile because then they can use the little swipe features and the gestures and sort of interact with it like that. But effectively, you've asked them to complete a task, so they might be doing that. You could choose to add little like sort of tips and hints as well if you wanted to. That's a pretty cool idea if that maybe reminds them what their mission is. If they're clicking in the wrong space, see how it glows blue, like what the functional buttons are. The reason for that is not all the buttons are going to be functional. This is just an app for, this is just a survey to get the basics of how it works. So you don't want them to think that every single thing should be functional because it simply shouldn't. They would be clicking on here, they'd be clicking around, clicking our little plus buttons, and that's when they can make a comment. They could perhaps place a pin down here and say, when I click another song, the play button remains highlighted from the previous song. So that could be a comment that they could make. They could go ahead, don't ask them to sign an Adobe ID or anything like that. They don't have to. So continue as a guest. You could just say participant 1. Careful, you've got that ethics around identifying participants. So just be careful to make sure that you're collecting their data in an ethical way. That can be your little pins. You can also make a comment there. They can make general comments. I think this screen is too busy. Submit again. And, they could perhaps scroll up and they could say, they don't like that the top of the album might be distorted or covered by these tabs over here. So that's when you can get that audience feedback. So each time I'm doing this, you can't see it, but in the bottom corner of my screen, a little thing's popping up to me. It's sending me an email to say, yeah, this participant's giving you some feedback. This is what it is. This is when they wrote it. This is how long they've been using it when they did that. So then you can derive all of that feedback and then present that data back and start formulating your finished presentation or your design solution. So that's the surveys. That marks the end of the Adobe XD set of tutorials. There's a million more things that you can do with Adobe XD. It's a very powerful program, but what you've learnt in these tutorials will get you able to do about 90% of what you need to do. Everything beyond that is effectively the same process, the same workflow. All you're doing is just using it in more advanced and sophisticated ways to get more advanced and sophisticated design solutions. All the best with your designing.